Play is one of my favorite topics because I think we underestimate the power of play, and we underestimate how much development occurs because of play in our child's life.
Yes.
Play has greatly decreased in the amount of play that children have in their lives. I think from the 70s. Obviously, screen time had an impact on that, but just in general, I think parents and as a society, we tend to place a lot more emphasis now on academic skills and
Yes.
making sure that our kids know how to read and how to write and know their colors and know their numbers. And when, as a neuroscientist, parents will often come up to me to ask me, how do I make sure my child is smart? And it's like, that's yeah. My answer to that is play. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they think that you're wasting time playing. Even here in Quebec, we launched a preschool program. I think it was about 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And it's play-based. And there was backlash from parents because my child is leaving childcare or daycare to start school. The preschool programs were within elementary schools. And parents just expected that this meant that their children would learn how to read earlier and learn how to write. And they were disappointed that it was just about playing. So just as a history of play, but free play is the type of play that is the best for development. And what is free play? It's basically, I don't know how you guys grew up, but I would be thrown outside by my grandmother in a good way, but it was like, go outside. Yeah. It's you woke up, you had your breakfast, goodbye, and I'll see you at lunchtime. Which now that I think back was brilliant. But as a parent, so my grandmother would, just give me items like a bowl and a spoon. And sometimes I would put water with soap in it and just wash random socks and face cloths. and then sometimes that bowl would become something I'd go explore her backyard with and take soil and leaves and rocks and stir it up. And it was some sort of mud pie. And I have such fond memories of that. And I think back to my kids now and the play that they have, and I try to mimic that as much as possible. So when parents ask me, I saw these really good activities that are teaching kids how to read early and write, and my response to that is just go in your kitchen, get a bowl, get a spoon, get a whisk, get anything that you have that you don't use anymore that's plastic because they'll break it probably, but then either go outside or inside, or give them rice in their bowl and give them an ice cube tray, something random. For babies, it doesn't matter if your child is 8 months old or your child is 3 years old. I give them the same objects, bowl and a spoon, and it's not that they only play with that, but there's so much power in that. And what happens is that imaginative play or that pretend play starts to develop around the age of 18 months. So if we look at those years, what if we're giving our children things that they have to press buttons for that make certain sounds and sing certain songs. It's not that there's something completely wrong with that, but where are we giving them opportunities to create their own world? Are we giving them opportunities for them to lead play and to tell us what they want to do and what's in their mind? And are we putting a little baby doll or some sort of stuffed animal? Are we, that's what I do with my kids. I minimize the area as much as I can. And obviously there's some days where they want to play with every toy and we put it all there and it's a disaster. Yeah. But besides that, on average, I compare it to like going to a restaurant and you have a menu and you're so excited to go to that restaurant, you're hungry and you're really feeling it that night. And then you open the menu and they have 10,000 items, 10,000 different things you could choose from. Yeah. And you're like, well, hold on. Do I want Mexican? Do I want Italian? You also have Greek? Like, I don't know. Like, what do I want? I was hungry and now I'm not hungry anymore. So I apply that to toys in a child's environment. It's like, sure, put all the balls and the trucks and the figurines and the Legos and you have everything. And they might want to play because intrinsically that's what they do. And then you put them in this environment with everything and it's like, I'm just going to dump the bins and I'm not going to play with it because I don't know what I want to play with anymore. So we need to approach it from a minimalist perspective, and put a baby doll, maybe a little bowl and a spoon, and they're going to pretend they're feeding it, or put a couple animal figurines, from the farm and put little ice cube trays and maybe a little bit of rice, and they're going to pretend they're feeding it, or what they decide what they want to do with it, or one little stethoscope and a doll or some animals, and they're a veterinarian or they're a doctor. They'll figure it out. But having the right items in their environment and not too much will go towards that kind of play, that free play that lets them lead. And there are 4 categories of free play. There's object play. And I think parents underestimate a baby who's just mouthing something and looking at it, and they're not doing what they should be doing with that object. And my response to that is, it's free play. They're seeing, what does it feel like? What does it taste like? Babies learn through their senses. So they're going to squeeze it, they're going to throw it, they're going to roll it, they're going to bounce it, they're going to throw it at your walls that you just painted, but that's how they're discovering the toy, and that's how they're literally learning, and their brain is registering all of that and saying, oh, this is a ball and it rolls. Okay, let me see. Oh, there's something round at the end of on the floor there in the living room. Let me go get that. And they take it and they throw it. It rolls the same way that the other ball rolled. And then all those neuronal connections are happening. So it's that kind of play at a young age that kind of builds up into like their cognitive development, their social emotional skills. So talking about those 4 aspects of free play. So there's object play, then there's pretend play or social play, and you can do that on your own or with somebody else. There's outdoor play, just being outside and playing with sticks and rocks and whatever you find, leaves. And then the 4th one is going back to what you spoke about, which is the risky play, the physical play. Just having a pillow fight with your young child, obviously not throwing them across the room, but you're showing them that there's a good risk to kind of like pushing each other a little bit and being careful, obviously, as much as you can with young kids. And I'm saying, you know what? No, hold on. I'm saying that because I get backlash when I talk about risky play. So that was my brain protecting myself. So let me go back and say, no, have fun.
Yes.
And it's, that was my subconscious coming out, because I when I do get backlash, when I talk about risky play, or I show a picture of a child, walking up a banister, climbing it, because they say, like, I don't want my child in the hospital, and you're pushing that kind of play that could end up in an injury. So yes, I am pushing risky play, but it's because there's so much to be learned in risky play. And so my advice, so that's the neuroscientist hat. Now I'm going to put on my mom hat. I hate risky play. I hate it.
Yeah, no, I feel that.
I'm naturally anxious. I don't like it. I turn my head when they do certain things, and my husband throws them up in the sky, but they need it so badly. So I have to work on myself to allow them to do the risky play, because I know that through development, they're going to learn how to push their boundaries. They're going to learn even play fighting between each other. My son, my middle child, just turned 4, and my daughter's about to turn 6. And they started play fighting, and it's kind of funny because they're so tiny and they're just like, pushing each other and they're laughing. And I have to step back. Sometimes they're on the couch, and I'm like, somebody will fall off that couch and is going to smash their head on the floor. But I try to put like little pillows on the floor or a blanket. But I try so hard to let them do it, because what's happening through that play fighting, they are learning negotiation skills, right? Like, stop putting your finger up my nose. Okay, but can I put it in your ear? Whatever it is. They are learning boundaries, like body boundaries. If I don't like it when you push me this way, or don't touch me there. And they're going to verbalize that. They're learning to build, they're learning social emotional skills. Last time when I smacked you across the face, you didn't like it and you cried. This time I won't do that, but I might give you a push, or I might take your foot and try to put it in your ear, or whatever they do. I don't know. They're able to bend certain ways, but they're learning a lot in that moment. And as long as they're being respectful, there are boundaries. So, you guys could play fight, but if somebody says stop or don't do that, you stop. And we have like a safe word, just because sometimes you're giggling and you don't know, but because sometimes one's laughing and then I'm not the safe word is for me. Again, going back to my anxiety, but because sometimes they're tickling each other and I'm not sure if it's a giggle that's like you're in pain or a giggle that you want them to stop. So if you say like banana, like everything stops. But so just to say, that sort of kind of the rough and tumble play, that's part of development. It's part of play, and it's a kind of play that leads to cognitive skills and social emotional skills. And as they get older, I had a parent who told me that their children will start that kind of play, but then it always ends up being somebody crying, somebody's upset. And my response to that is, then you know which skills you need to work on with your children. If you know, figure it out, journal about it, and observe. And if one child is not listening to the other person's boundaries, is not listening to them saying, stop, I don't like this, then they need to learn to respect that part of another person, because one day they'll be out in school, or you won't be there in front of them. And they might be play fighting with a friend, a little boy or a little girl or whoever it is, and they might not listen to their body boundaries. They might not listen to what makes them safe and feel comfortable. So do it in your home when you can, because then they'll be away from you and you won't have a say. And that's another reason why it's important. But beyond that, with my children, I have a step stool, and when they were before the age of 1, I would put that little step stool on top of like a cushion, like a mat on the floor, and they would just climb it. Babies want to climb. That age group of 1 to 1.5, or even before 1, but they're learning. They've learned how to crawl and move, and the more there are studies that show that there's a link between movement and learning how to develop and developing those skills and cognitive ability. Because what happens when I'm crawling around? Well, now I'm not stuck in that same corner of the living room. I came to see you in the kitchen, and wait a second, I've never been in the kitchen. What is this? Cupboards, a fridge? What is that thing? It's loud, it makes noise. Let me see what it feels like. Let me touch it. A cupboard? Let me open it. Oh my gosh, there's a whole new world in this cupboard. Let me empty it out. I'm going to take every single container and throw it on the floor. I'm going to take the pasta bag, the bag of pasta that's half empty and that you forgot to put a clip on, and I'm going to dump it on the floor.
There we go.
And there's a lot of learning happening in those moments. The child is touching, is emptying. They're learning the consequence of something. They're learning, so the more they move around and the more we allow them to move around and not contain them to a certain space, but create a safe environment. Obviously, when I talk about risky play, it's not about learning that if you walk towards the staircase and fall down the stairs, that oh, well, you'll learn next. That's not what I'm saying when I talk about risky play. And I want to make it clear. It's about creating certain environments and certain opportunities for your child, because that will help them with their development. So I get a little bit passionate when I talk about play.
Right.
There's so much learning to be done, and parents not understanding that could be more important than learning how to read early. That just let your child play, put them outside. And if you don't have outdoors, some parents, might just have a little balcony because they live in a condo. I lived in an apartment building for the first 1.5 years of my daughter's life, and I had a container. I don't know if I have it. No, I don't. It's outside. I have just a regular bin, a storage bin, and we would play with water. We would, I would put animal figurines inside with oatmeal, dried oats, or rice, or whatever it was. But just making sure that you create that environment and then you step back and let them lead. That's the best thing we can do.